Let me just say a few words, and I'll be happy to take some questions. The last 4 months have been rather extraordinary. If I was with you literally 4 months ago today and you asked me whether I was going to be running for President of the United States, the truthful answer would have been, I really don't know. But my wife and I made the decision, and it has been a heck of 3.5 months. I think what is happening is we are touching a nerve throughout this country because we're speaking about issues that are not talked about enough. The collapse of the American middle class, the obscene level of income and wealth inequality, the fact that we have today, as a result of Citizens United, a campaign finance system which is corrupt and which is allowing billionaires to buy elections. The fact that the Pope and scientists throughout the world have made it clear that climate change is real and that we have the moral imperative to work with the rest of the world to transform our energy system. The fact that it is totally beyond comprehension that in a competitive global economy, we have hundreds of thousands of bright young people who cannot even afford to go to college, and we have to address that issue. The fact that we continue to have in this country a broken criminal justice system, and that we have unarmed African Americans who are killed far, far too often, and that's got to change. What I have been impressed about in the campaign is not only the huge turnouts that we are getting, not only the 100,000 plus volunteers that have come onto the campaign, not only the 400,000 individuals who have made campaign contributions, individual contributions averaging $31 a piece, but also, if you look at some of these polls out there, I know people say, well, Bernie Sanders, unelectable, can't win. Well, in a number of these polls, we are defeating some of the leading Republican candidates. And by the way, a point that I would make in terms of polling is polls still show that 30, 40% of the American people don't know who Bernie Sanders is, let alone what I stand for. You know, and we're running against a woman who's maybe the best known, one of the best known people in the entire world. So I'm feeling very, very good about the campaign. I think we have a path to victory. And I was very excited today to come here to the DNC and to receive as warm a response as we did. And I thank the DNC for the invitation. Yeah. Okay, questions?
Yes, Senator.
Yeah.
Right before you spoke, Governor O'Malley said he thought the debate process for the Democratic primary was rigged. That's the word he used. I'm wondering if you agree with him. Do you think there should be more debate?
I do. And I've been quite public on that. Look, I think that when you have a situation where in the November election, let's not forget, 63% of the American people didn't vote, 80% of young people didn't vote, vast majority of low-income working people didn't vote. I think allowing the American people to hear our viewpoints on the important issues facing this country is a very positive thing. And I'll tell you what I think. I think that there should be debates sponsored by trade unions, debates sponsored by environmental groups, gay groups, women's groups, groups that represent different constituency. And, I've made the Democratic leadership aware of my view on that.
Senator, are you concerned about what if Vice President Biden were to enter the race, what impact that would have?
Well, that's a good question. I've been asked that about 14 million times, and for the 14th million, the answer is, I do understand that some people say, well, for a variety of reasons, it may benefit Secretary Clinton. Others say it, may benefit me. I guess we will have to, wait and see. I honestly don't know the answer. I don't think anybody does. You guys know more about this than I do, and I just don't know the answer. What I will say, and let me repeat, is that if I've known Joe for a number of years, we served in the Senate, obviously, together, and everybody knows Joe Biden to be a very, very decent guy. And if Joe gets in, my pledge to him, as it has been to Secretary Clinton and to everybody else, is that we're going to focus on the major issues facing the American people. I do not believe in, personal attacks. I do not believe in saying, I'm great, everybody else is terrible, vote for me. Just not my style. So Joe has a lot to say, and if he gets into the race, we look forward to a strong issue-oriented campaign. Yes, sir. Peter.
Senator, you said that the Democratic Party can't afford to practice establishment politics, mainstream politics.
Yeah.
Do you have anyone in mind when, in the sense of your Democratic rivals or?
Look, I'll let you use your imagination on that, Peter. Look, this is what I mean, and thanks for the question, and this is what I mean sincerely. I don't know how many of you have been to some of the events that we have done around the country, but if you go to the events, whether it's in Iowa, whether it's in New Hampshire, but the events we had in the West Coast, events we had here. I mean, the first major event we had was right here in Minneapolis. I couldn't believe it. I don't know, 5,000, 6,000 people showed up. We were totally overwhelmed by the number of people who showed up. Most of the people, vast majority of the people who come out are not active participants in the Democratic Party. They're just ordinary people. I suspect a number of them have not voted terribly often in the past. Many of them have. I suspect they have voted Democratic. But for us to do well, for us, the Democrats, to win the White House, retain the White House, take back the Senate, do well in the House, and by the way, win governor's races all over this country and state legislative races, we need to substantially increase voter turnout. Everybody knows that. As I said in my speech, Republicans didn't win in November. Democrats lost, and the Democrats lost because the voter turnout was abysmally low. So what I'm suggesting, and what I'm saying and what I believe in my heart, is that based on what I have seen going around the country, we were just in New Hampshire the other day. We go to small towns, Littleton, over 1,000 people are coming out. Had a meeting Monday morning in Conway, New Hampshire, 650 people coming out. We are bringing out people who are not necessarily actively involved in politics. They are people who are concerned about the future of this country. I believe they're responding to the message that we're offering them. And I think that you're looking at a candidate who can substantially increase voter turnout all over this country. And that will impact not just the race for the presidency, but races for the Senate, for the House, and governor's seats. If there is a large voter turnout, Democrats will do well. If there is a small voter turnout, Republicans will win. Dan?
Sir, why do you believe, as you apparently do, that Secretary Clinton is not able to generate that kind of excitement or enlarged turnout?
Well, as I've said a million times, I'm not here during this campaign to be attacking Secretary Clinton. I'll let you be the judge of that. I think, objectively speaking, that the kind of excitement that we have generated in this campaign, the huge turnouts that we have seen, the number of volunteers, the number of campaign contributors that we have, all of in the last 3.5 months, I think it is fair to say that from an objective point of view, I am not objective, I can see that, but from an objective point of view, I think it is fair to say that the energy, the excitement, and the momentum is with our campaign right now. And I think the other thing, Dan, that you're going to see, and I'm not, polls are polls, some of them are good, some of them are not good, and it's early in the political world, in the campaign cycle, to be talking about polls. But you're seeing those polls become, in many cases, closer and closer. We started, go back, Dan, check out the early polls. We were at 3 or 4%. That's what we were 3 or 4 months ago. Now we're in 25, 30% nationally. We're winning in New Hampshire and so forth. Yes, sir.
How would you deal with Native Americans asking the federal government to honor the treaty rights of 1885 in Minnesota, Dakotas, and other places where they harvest wild rice, and they don't want tar sands?
Well, I don't want tar sands in general, all right? And as I mentioned in the speech, you're looking at somebody who has helped lead the effort against the Keystone Pipeline. So I don't know all of the details, but I think it is fair to say that in general, we don't have to say it, no one will deny that the way the United States government has treated Native people is shameful. All right, maybe a couple of more questions, sir.
Yes, Senator, there's a report today in Bloomberg that Secretary Clinton already has 60% of all the super delegates that are out there. What efforts have you made along those lines, and what does that mean this early in the game?
Well, two things. Number one, I think it's fair to say that we'll probably win most of our delegates in the struggle by state by state. And I think we're off to a pretty good start. I think we're doing well in New Hampshire. I think you're going to see us do better in Iowa. We're finally, again, we're only in this thing 3.5 months, And, 2 months ago, I think we had maybe 2 people on our campaign in Iowa. Now we have many people, so we're organizing. And I think you're going to see us, we had a great trip to South Carolina. We're going to focus on Nevada as well. So I think you're going to see us do well. But in terms of superdelegates, let me say this. The people in here are smart people. They're not dummies. They want to see a Democrat win the White House. And I understand that, Secretary Clinton's people have been talking to these folks for a very, very long time. So she has a huge advantage over us in that respect. Not to say that there are a lot of people there who are supportive of her. But I think as our campaign progresses, and as people see us do better and better, you're going to see a lot of superdelegates. I just met with one as I was walking in here 10 minutes ago who said, well, you swayed me. I'm on your side now. I think you're going to see that. So it's one thing for people to say, well, I'm with the secretary today. We'll see where people will be 3 months from now or 5 months from now. Yes, sir.
When you're having those kinds of conversations with superdelegates, how much of it is an electability issue to convince them that you can win next year?
Yeah, I think that's very important. No question about it. Look, at the end of the day, people will say, we like you and, we agree with a lot of your ideas, but can you win? And what I would say, what has impressed me, and let me reiterate this, when you read polls, read the last line in the polls. I'll go down to some little detail there, and you'll find that, how many of you don't know who Secretary Clinton is? Very few people. 95% of people know who Secretary Clinton is. How many of you don't know who Bernie Sanders is? Depending on the poll, 20, 30, 40%. And yet, regardless of that, in some of the polls that have been out there, including just one the other day, we are defeating, on a one-to-one matchup, a number of Republicans. So we are, defeating Trump or Bush or whatever. I think we were losing the last poll to Rubio by 1 point. And that's with a lot of people not knowing who I am. So I think the issue of electability, can we win this election? Can we defeat the Republicans? I think the answer is becoming more and more clear that we can. Dan? Well, we've. Well, first of all, just from a legal point of view, so let me be clear. Howard Dean, myself, Patrick Leahy, nobody can register as a Democrat, as you know, in the state of Vermont. I vote in the Democratic primaries. I have helped elect some Democratic governors in the state of Vermont. I have been a member of the Democratic caucus from virtually the first day I was in the House and throughout my 9 years in the Senate. I was, as you know, the chairman of the Veterans Committee. I'm now the ranking member on the Democratic side in the Budget Committee. I had to make a decision, as you all know, many, many, many months ago, as to whether I would run for president as an independent or run as a Democrat. I made the decision to run within the Democratic primary and caucus as a Democrat. I think that was exactly the right decision. I can't tell you that every supporter of mine agrees with that, but I think the vast majority of them do. And the campaign is going very, very well.
Just one follow-up. Is this the first time you addressed the DNC meeting?
Yes.
This is the first time. And what mentions have you been to?
In 2008, when Obama was nominated in Denver. Okay, maybe one more. Anything else? Yes, sir.
There's been some buzz from some Democrats who aren't supporting you about your gun control policies. I've heard from, over the last couple of days since what happened in Virginia on Wednesday.
Sure.
A lot of talk from Hillary Clinton, a lot of talk from Martin O'Malley about we need more gun control measures. Why haven't you talked about this the last few days?
Well, guns are a huge issue, and gun violence in this country is a huge issue, and all of us, taken aback by this horrible shooting on camera of 2 journalists. And, we've seen what has gone on, God, in South Carolina and Charleston, unbelievable stuff. So, this is a very, very important issue. So let me just reiterate what I hope all of you know, and I know there's some stuff going around that I'm, some kind of a gun nut and so forth and so on. It ain't true. I come from a state that has virtually no gun control. That's the way it is in my state. And we have, tens of thousands of people who are hunters and so forth and so on. But despite that, hunters, they do target practice, they go to gun shows. But despite that, you are looking at a congressman and a senator who voted, and it was not an easy vote for me, coming from the state that I come, to ban a number of semi-automatic assault weapons. That's the way I voted. Who voted for instant background checks, and who voted to close the gun show loophole so that people could not avoid the instant background check. And I am open to other ideas. Here's the point, though, that I've made time and time again. Do we need to make sure that people who should not own guns do not own guns? And the answer is unequivocally yes, we have got to do that. But I think just people shouting at each other and going nowhere in a hurry and trying to address that issue is not doing anybody any good. And in fact, I think I could play a good role in that debate, because the people of Vermont do understand, people in New Hampshire do understand, that guns in our states, in rural states, mean different things to people than guns in urban states where kids are getting killed every single day. So I think I can play a positive role, and we are prepared to do that. All right, we got a plane to catch. Thank you all very, very much. Take care.